My name is Wes White. I'm co-president of the Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union. Just coming here today, we've been pushing for better treatment. You know, there was a Johnson versus Grants Pass Supreme Court case that came out, and which allows jurisdictions. It says it may, but it doesn't mean it has to. You can just drag people out for no reason at all, maybe even criminalize, ticket, or arrest them. And just looking for some kind of confirmation that's not happening, I suppose. Maybe even a public statement, to that effect. I always worry about, people living outside in a tent, in a car. A lot of these folks are signed for services with the continuum of care, and one way or another, I mean, they have nowhere else to go. And for law enforcement to just come up and say, well, you can't be here, that's not providing a service. That's terrorism domestically, and it shouldn't happen. Especially with a community that definitely has a lot of heart and soul in Seaside, and that's what I really love about it. And I just want to see that above board as well as in practice on a daily basis. Because I do know people that have been in spots and then I can't find them again. And so where are they? And the same thing with service providers, they have the same issue. For medical services, for billing purposes, people have to have a residential address, not a postal or general delivery or anything like that. So, actually allowing people to be somewhere, anywhere, especially if they're signed for services. There's little old ladies that have been driven on and driven on, at the threat of losing their motorhome, the only sense of security they have, with a locked door and bathroom they can use, that's fleeting. So, these are just kind of issues I hope you think about, and, as people are out in the street, and they just need a home. It's getting that much more difficult with evictions and everything else, and pretty soon it's going to be your friends and relatives that are out there too, so got to treat people better.
B was also mine too. And actually, Mr. White, you actually did speak to this. So B comes out of, I think I've spoken about myself before, he's on the autism spectrum. And we have a Sunday ritual where we go, we get breakfast, and depending upon where we go, sometimes our breakfast will come with free coffee. And my son has taken it upon himself that he wants to help people. And so he makes sure that every Sunday morning, within 30 minutes of getting the free coffee, that we give it away to someone. He's very adamant about that, and when he can't do that, he's very sad. And so we've been doing this now for probably the last 3 years. That's actually how we ended up meeting the gentleman by the name of Kenny that a lot of people are aware of that pushes the multiple carts down the street. Mm-hmm. That's how we ended up befriending him, bringing him breakfast on Sunday mornings. And so in the last month or so, we noticed it was harder to give away or find someone to give away the coffee. And so of course my son's feeling bad. He said, well, we always give away our coffee. We always, if we have extra money, we always give money. I've given his old clothes away because he's very large. And he's just been very sad because he was like, we haven't been able, Mom, I don't see anyone, And so to make him feel better, I said, well, I think maybe the city's helping with them and they're getting resources, and so maybe it's a good thing, because I didn't want him to be upset. But then something led me to, well, you know what, I want to know that for sure. I know I can tell him that to make him feel better, but I want to know for sure because it does seem like the numbers have decreased in the city of Seaside in regards to encampments and things like that. So I sent the email to Regina just asking, we've noticed this and we just want to know what the situation is. Are they getting resources? Is the city helping? Or within the time that I sent her the email, the Supreme Court had made that ruling where it said municipalities were allowed to clear their streets. And so then I'm like, does it have to do with the ruling? Because I definitely don't want it to be that. So I'm glad that I thank Mr. White for coming tonight and speaking to that. So that's pretty much my question is, do we know why the numbers have decreased? Is it a good thing, a bad thing? I don't know if that's the right question to ask, but do we have an answer for that?
I've noticed that there's been a decrease as well. But I was wondering, I think the city has a commission on Homelessness or Unhoused Commission. Don't they?
Yes, they do.
Maybe we could invite the chairman or one of the members to our next meeting. So that I mean, it's a safety issue. It's a community safety advisory committee. It's just informational for us to know what they're doing, so that if they need assistance or we can tell somebody where to get the services that are needed, then maybe we can do that. If we could, you think we can invite one of them to our meeting, you know, our staff liaison?
Yes. However, let me double check with the city clerk to see if the invitation should be coming from you directly as the chair, or if I can submit that invitation to them. And I did go online here, I did bring up the page, so there is a homeless commission with the city. So yes, I'll do that. I'll send an email and I'll include you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And I think that's, I mean, if everybody's in agreement with that, that way we can understand what they're doing.
Would we make any recommendations after we heard what they might have to say?
You have, I mean, yeah, I would say we could offer our assistance.
Because I heard the speaker, and it occurred to me that, you know, would there be more housing available if the city could consider instituting, be for the city council to institute like a vacancy tax, where if you have a housing space and you leave it vacant for so long, we're going to make you pay a little something into, I don't know, just throwing it out there.
So it's a good question we can ask.
Sure.
I was just going to make the comment that I did have an opportunity to work with Derek Gelder, who is, as I understand, in charge of, they're associated with the rec department, but they've set up an office specifically to work with, and I'm sure anyone that's working on this, specifically to work with the homeless as far as resource. But I agree with having someone, because I'm sure they're know this stuff too.
Absolutely.
And see where they're going, so we don't interfere with their, to understand it would be great. We could all of some, but just like these are, we can go 7 new meetings.
Absolutely. So the homeless commission or the unhoused, they are now with unhoused.
Chair Jones,
Yes.
one other alternative, I'm actually looking at the meeting that the commission actually meets every month on the 4th Thursday. I mean, it's quite possible that maybe our board, our commission could possibly attend one of their meetings.
Yeah, they meet on the 4th Thursday.
It looks like it's the 4th Thursday at 5:30 p.m.
Here.
Hello, good morning. Wes White, Salinas, Monterey County Homeless Union, also part of the LEAD Committee, Lived Experience Advisory Directive, with the Continuum of Care. Coming to you today because we just had a Coalition of Homeless Service Providers board meeting, which is part of the Continuum of Care that gets funding for the state. There was a breakthrough moment where a couple of the board members spoke about as sweeps being the anti-solution, and that we need to validate at least the people who are involved in the continuum, and afford them some kind of sovereignty over themselves and what's going to happen in their life. They need somewhere to be. You can't be here, cannot be the solution to the problem. That's not my problem. And that is what all law enforcement does across every jurisdiction. So it's interesting, it's wonderful to me, and I would imagine it's somewhat disconcerting to the governor, but it needs to be addressed and it needs to be uplifted. And I'm looking for collaboration. You can make an ordinance. Think of the Johnson versus Grants Pass, and how are you going to set yourself apart from that? Or are you just going to throw in with it and make people's lives worse? At this point, we already know there's no shelter available for anybody anywhere. And what they have is where they're at. That is affordable housing. Public property, private property, wherever they're at, there needs to be collaboration, especially because this is where your continuum of care is leading toward lead me home and out of homelessness, at least functional zero. And I believe that's achievable, it's possible. And one of the ways we can do that is through like a Google survey. It's cheap, it's easy, but at least a constant contact between the coalition and then it distributes back to case managers. So each person outside who is involved in the continuum of care has access to their case manager and can tell them everything that's happening. The case manager can find them, easier to find services. I know medically, people are required to have a physical address to be able to receive services and be billed for it, so the county can be recompensated. And you know, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can work with people instead of just driving them away. We need to stop the sweeps, we need to save lives. You know, we're talking about quality of life and quantity of life, not loss of life. And that needs to be our focus. And I'd like to see an ordinance between this jurisdiction and every other jurisdiction in the county, within the San Benito County as well, moving toward that goal and objective. We could be world leaders at this point if we wanted to. Stop squeeze.
My name is Robert Daniels. I'm a community organizer with Building Up the Communities. I approached today to give a comment on Governor Newsom's executive order on homeless encampments, which in my opinion poses a significant risk to public health. This measure, while targeting visible signs of homelessness, neglects to address the underlying issues of inadequate housing and supportive services. Replacing individuals from encampments without offering viable alternatives can exacerbate public health problems by forcing them into less visible, less secure, and more unfavorable conditions. The forced relocation can intensify environmental hazards and diminish access to essential services such as sanitation, medical care, and mental health support. The instability and disruption faced by individuals in these circumstances can aggravate chronic health conditions and impede continuous care. An effective approach would involve a compassionate strategy focused on providing permanent, supportive housing and comprehensive care. Such a strategy would not only safeguard the health of our unhoused population, but also enhance overall public health, fostering a more humane and sustainable solution to homelessness. I urge the Council to look upon alternative solutions, to lean upon Derek Elder's department to provide resources and connections to resources to our unhoused population, instead of leaning upon displacement, detainment, and arrest, which will only place a heavier burden on our police force and our city's budget.
Thank you. My name is Wes White, Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union co-president, also a member of the LEAD committee, which is part of the Continuum of Care, Lived Experience Advisory Directive. So there was an executive order today, you may have heard, that says they're going to clear everybody off of state property and make it your problem instead of their problem. I guess we do have a little bit. I want to give you a report about the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers. You know, they basically stated that sweeps are the anti-solution. And so you have collaborative efforts that could be had, you know, if there is conjoining between the county and the jurisdictions. Because, of course, the county is worried about, oh my God, you're going to put all of your problems on the hard problems. And that's kind of the way this big shuffle game has been happening, and it just needs to stop. I mean, these are your residents. During the CSAC meeting a week or two ago, the Safety Advisory Committee here for Seaside, you know, a lot of board members lamented about how, where do all our locals go? We're not finding people anymore. What happened to them? You know, of course, the police said, you know, we're complaint driven, which, you know, but where did they go? I mean, they're probably signing for services. They're probably signing up in continuum care, you know, for housing, you know, trying to get in. And all they can do is wait and see if they ever make the cut. And most people are not going to make the cut. So what is to happen to our residents? You know, Seaside has a lot of heart, and I love this community so much. The involvement and you know, level of respect and warm intentions, and that needs to be extended. You know, if okay, so they're looking for collaboration between jurisdictions to you know, solve homelessness, the Leave Me Home plan from a decade ago, and that it can't happen if all the jurisdictions actually want to work together. You know, I mean, the Supreme Court decision doesn't mean you have to be as mean and rude. It means that you can do different. You don't have to. That's really a consideration. You really need to go for it, because these are people. You're talking about human lives, and it's domestic terrorism is what's happening. On a state level, who's supposed to be responsible? Which jurisdiction? The state or the federal? If it's not, is it the county and the city? No, because that's all you ever do is point at the state. Make the state give you more money. So, you know, round and round we go, but human lives are at stake. Suffering is what pays for a lot of people's jobs. And it just needs to be different, the way we do commerce, the way we do business. We need to put people first, stop the sweeps. Hi, Wes White, Salinas, Monterey County Homeless Union Co-President. Checking in today to tell you about what happened with the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers. During that meeting, there was a consensus. City of Salinas actually wasn't there, but there was consensus that basically sweeps are the anti-solution. And that's between one of your main service providers here in Salinas, Dorothy's Place, as well as the County of Monterey. So I would hope, you know, I totally berate you guys all the time, but in the same instance, you could be world-class leaders at this point if you were to collaborate with the people who want to collaborate with you, especially concerning the people they're servicing. So, you know, man, we need to change the addiction and the mental illness of doing a sweep. I actually put out an email asking for a meeting with city manager, city attorney, parks, police, I don't care, but recorded, you know, and let's ask some answers, you know. I mean, let's do it. Let's put it on the air. Let's put you on record. I've not gotten an email back. So, I mean, do you really want to get at the truth? Do you really want to get at solutions, or just pushing people away, getting rid of them? Is that the way we do business here? Because that's already the federal and the state have already abdicated their responsibilities to you, the jurisdictions here locally. There is an opportunity that you know, every jurisdiction could just keep their own residents and not shove them into just county lines, which of course is the county's major concern is what about me, not about anybody else, because you're not a public service, you're more of a business corporation. And that needs to change, the whole heart mindset, you know. I mean, you have an opportunity to be community-minded, community-focused, if you choose to actually take the path. But that requires stopping the sweeps, allowing people on an address to be 24/7, 365. And until you do that, running water, electricity, remember shelter in place. Oh my God, you might kill me, stay away from me. That was the only time you had a heart and humanity. Stop the sweeps. Thank you. Hi, good morning. Wes White, Salinas, Monterey County Homeless Union, also a member of the lead committee on the continuum of care. You know, there was a Grants Pass decision through the Supreme Court that's made it a lot easier for people to be driven out of wherever they're at. We need to stop that whole attitude, I suppose. You know, this is a body I've been coming to for almost a decade now, 8 years maybe, that, you know, we should have had some kind of consciousness of change and holding our jurisdictions more accountable so that we can do fruition of service through the continuum. Now, that actually would require somebody to be able to be somewhere 24 hours a day, especially if they're maintaining minimal health and safety standards and they're not, you know, doing crime, visible crime, other than existing and trying to be somewhere. They're entitled to some personal property, even if they don't own any real property or paid for through rent. There's a lot more people that are becoming evicted and entering this system that is basically egregious against anyone who's too poor to afford rent. And I mean, I'm looking at this body in the continuum of care to step it up. I mean, we could be world-class leaders at this point. You know, there's an opportunity. Jurisdictions may be meaner, but it doesn't mean they necessarily have to be. And apparently, maybe we're not doing as good a job as we could to cajole a better outcome, more reasonable for quality of life and not loss of life. Because that's been happening a lot lately. The city still taking people's possessions without a notice, which is illegal. And, you know, they're just not even trying. And we are not even trying as a body in the coalition or the continuum as hard as we could be. So it's not an unknown. It's just willful ignorance. And, you know, it can't just be according to your contract. It has to be something that's going to be better and best practices. So please join me in condemning the jurisdictions and what they do when they just drive people out for no reason other than they just can't be there. That cannot be the way that we do business. You can't be here, cannot be an answer to the problem. That's not my problem. You know, that is what the police say to people as they're stealing people's only possessions in the world, making it much more difficult, and you wonder where that trauma comes from. It's not just drugs. Please help me stop the sweeps.
I'd like to think that this coalition could be part of what will probably be considered to be a radical solution. But what we have to understand as a community, and this is where it all starts, is that pushing people around the map until they become one big traumatized, chronically unsheltered mess is not the solution. It's the anti-solution. It's costing the community dearly to do this, even though most people don't understand that they're paying into that system. But more than that is, as our economy continues to fluctuate, as our rents keep going up, we're going to have more and more people in the system, as Wes suggests. So we all need to start working on real solutions that will be costly in the beginning, but don't have to be as costly as what we've been imagining they could be. I think that there are real common sense solutions to be had. And I also think that this coalition could form a basis of information, could communicate that out to the larger community so that we can start getting people together to do a big community lift of expectations and get behind the solution. That may sound cryptic to some people. I'm happy to discuss it with anybody. But we can't just keep pushing people around the map and expecting them to solve their own problem. That, obviously, we've continued to prove doesn't work.
Thank you, Jill. I think that's important and worthy of additional conversation, as you suggest. Roxanne, you have your hand up.
Good morning, everybody. Roxanne Wilson, County of Monterey. There's a couple of things that I would like to mention. One is I'm still wrapping my brain around Grants Pass because, as you can imagine, from the county's perspective, people will likely get pushed into unincorporated areas of the county. So this is also very much a concern of mine, and I don't exactly know how we're going to respond, but I am hoping to pull together a group of city leaders as well for us to maybe even do something like we did with the Lead Me Home plan, where you have many people working on it, and then we work on other jurisdictions adopting. This could theoretically at least put some guardrails up, and if everybody agrees to it, we're not saying that, you know, if people are stealing electricity from a house, then you can't respond, but what we're saying is if there is no places for people to go, and really the trash and the blight is really the main problem, then how can we as jurisdictions respond to the root of the problem, which is the trash and the blight, not necessarily the people. So again, I'm still speaking very high level. I don't exactly know if I need a technical assistance provider, but I will tell you that where I'm starting is, I believe in August, and I'll send this to the coalition pretty soon, I am going to have the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness do a presentation to the Monterey County Homelessness Committee. That is open to everybody. It is a Brown-acted meeting, so we'll make sure all of you guys know, and we will also work with the cities so that their leadership is aware that that USICH will be helping us, because the 19 strategies for encampments, it really is service-oriented. And I think that we all need to, that could be our baseline. Like, how then, if we're doing service-oriented responses to encampments, then how do we build our system around that? Okay, so that's the first thing. The second one is we are experiencing a huge amount of NIMBYism. It's worse than when we built the share center for the tiny village in Watsonville. And I think that is because, like, as you guys know, NIMBYs are very loud, and people who support the project are not quite as loud. So, you know, I am hoping that I can rely on our community to counter some of that NIMBYism, because there are lots and lots of people living on the levee. I just received a letter this morning from one of them saying that they would like to get in line. So the point is that people do want help. Maybe not everybody, but for the people who do want help, we should certainly do something for them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. I look forward to further conversations about that too, and anything that we can do, Katrina and I and the whole set of agencies, let us know, please.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
So let's talk a little bit about collaboration opportunities and events. We alluded to that earlier. I just think I'll just speak personally for a minute. I think that the spirit of the coalition is all about collaboration. I think our power is in collaboration. And I think the more we can do together, focus our energy on what's important. You know, Roxanne and others had things to say up front in this meeting that I think are important, and I think those are potential areas where we could get together and focus. So it is about the power of the group to me.
First and foremost, I just want to thank the coalition and everything that you stand for. I do know that in Santa Cruz County, agencies are getting together to develop their own coalition based off of what happens here. And it really is because of the power of the collaborative spirit that happens in our county, and we should all be proud of that. One of the things that I am working on, and many of you guys know, and is what are we going to do with the 51 people who are at Work Street? Actually, I heard that's 45. I heard Step Up is actually housing people, so that's great. Cecil Housing Authority and Step Up are currently working on getting folks vouchers. It sounds like there's some rapid rehousing and deposit assistance that's going to become available through CalAIM. I think Dorothy's placed it up and said that they would be willing to help however they need to help. But at this point, we need units. So if there's anything that your agencies become privy to, we are about to have like 45 people with vouchers, and they need somewhere to go. They're all unaccompanied adults. These are the original Project Room Key clients. The vast majority of them came from PRK. And many of these agencies worked on that project with me. Again, thank you so much. It really did make a difference having all the agencies showing up and really exhibiting what the force of the coalition can look like. But also, you may recall, if you helped, these folks are highly vulnerable. They're medically acute individuals. Many of them will not be able to survive, I think, for too much longer, especially as we start heading towards the colder months. So anything that you guys can do or come up with, I think that we would all be greatly appreciative. Thank you. So if you guys feel like you have any thoughts, I can put my email directly inside of the chat, and you can reach out to me if you have something. One of the things I will say is that none of them are veterans. As far as I know, none of them are 18 to 24 years old. So if that's not a true statement, I will rescind that and send an email. But at this very moment, I believe that most of them are elderly. The vast majority of them, I think, are over 50 years old at minimum. And I'm not saying 50 is elderly. I'm just saying many of them are semicolon and some of them are over 50.
Roxanne, on these people that will be displaced after a certain amount of time, are we, and I'm out of the loop a little bit on this, that's my fault, do we still have other hotels that are those still in the converting process, or has all of that stopped at this point because of, what's that name, that group?
Shangri-La.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I can tell you that Fairview is slated to open within the next month or two. Fairview is owned by a lender, and that lender is not interested in any type of partnership in transitioning that property back to the community. There's lots of conversations with that lender to see if they are going to stay true to the home key model. And we have yet to receive verification that they are going to target chronically homeless individuals. Work Street is at a dead stop right now. Work Street is the first home key. Many of you guys have been around for that. It is at a dead stop right now. The building is also owned by a bank now, and that bank is trying their best to work with local jurisdictions to relocate the 51 people so that they can resume construction. At this time, now mind you, it could change, but at this time, Work Street appears to still be on track to serve chronically homeless individuals. Because these projects are owned by banks now, and there's a lot of lawsuits flying around all over the place, I think that everyone is treading carefully, honestly, and the banks are really trying to understand what is going on with the properties that they have purchased. The other property, I think it's Baranda, that one there's no update on. It is also foreclosed and owned by a bank now. The last one is King City. King City is also owned by a bank. They are interested in selling back to the community, and we are working with the Housing Authority and the City of King to negotiate the purchase of that property. There are many issues with that property, but we're doing everything we can to try to bring it back into the community.
We obviously have some problems to solve, don't we? And I sure hope we can get behind Roxanne and find some rooms for these people. Because I shudder to think about what happens if we don't.